Hey guys, Weir, road2roota.com. It is Sunday afternoon, evening. Getting a lot of the same old stuff I heard back when I was first doing the Road to Roota analysis back in 2007 when the Federal Reserve Bank of Boston first put up the comic books, the Road to Roota comic books that I've referenced in my work. If you don't know anything about this, that is a comic book called Wishes and Rainbows. Wishes and Rainbows is a comic book that they remade. They remade it in 2007. They posted it on January 1st on New Year's Day on their website with a big red exclamation point along with the teacher's guide. Yes, a comic book has a teacher's guide. But I'm getting a lot of people saying, oh, I don't believe you. I don't believe that Trump has got anything to do with the good guys. You're reading this all wrong. I've been hearing it for 10 years, my friends. It's the same old story. I'm not saying believe everything I say, because everything I say is not correct. What I'm asking you to do is go do your own due diligence. Go find out what's going on in Syria. Go find out if we really bombed an Air Force base or we bombed a grass-ridden dry patch in the desert they used to call an Air Force base. But today, I just want to go over a couple of we got to go back in time. We got to go back when in 2000 and 2001 when I was fighting with the GATA guys, Bill Murphy and Chris Powell, about who was rigging the markets. Who was it? Why were they doing it? And we thought it was the banks to make money. It's always, if you ask anybody, oh, it's the Rothschilds to take over America and all that. Yeah, that was their plan. That was the plan of the bad guys to take over America and take over the world. One world government. You know that story. It's an old story. What I had discovered was that there were people inside the Federal Reserve that were working to take down these bad guys. The main thing that I found within these comics, first of all, if you haven't seen it yet, this is the very first edition of Wishes and Rainbows. It was published in the Federal Reserve Bank of Boston monthly magazine called The Ledger. And it was just a short story. It's pretty much the same story as Wishes and Rainbows, but Wishes and Rainbows was adapted for a comic by a guy named Stephen Duveau. And this is, it's almost exact, so I was all excited when I finally got my hands on it from the Fed. The Fed actually sent it to me. I don't think they knew who I was at the time. But it was written by a woman named Deborah Carpenter Beck. Never been able to find much on her, but I think I might have found her, but she's way out of the realm of the Federal Reserve. I'm just going to leave her there. But this was published in September of 1980. And then in 1981, our friend Stephen Duveau, who was in intelligence for the Department of the Navy, I think, and worked for the Federal Reserve Bank and was one of the first computer programmers ever, adopted it into a comic book. I signed this one. I'm giving it out. I was giving them out. Now you can't find them, so I'm hanging on to this one. But this is the comic book. And there are two real main things within this comic book that I developed the Road to Roota theory from. The first one, it was the second comic that I was looking at, but the first one has the same exact thing on page 4 when Grandma is tucking Roota into bed, and she tells her a very scary story about why people don't go to colored land, because these big people, meaning the Rothschilds and the people who control us, might step on these little pebble people. It's a frightening comic book. Just bone-chilling comic. And then one of the other big things that I discovered was this passage, which is when Roota finds the gold flowers, or the colored flowers, and she decides to allocate it to the population, the mayor tells her to go out and find a way to fairly do it. So if we go off the current unbacked fiat standard, we're going to have to issue new money. And what is a fair way to issue money? Nobody can even think. How do you say everybody's going to raise their hand and say, I want one, I want one? That's exactly what they say in this comic book. Roota's plan is what she writes in the sand, if you could see that economic formula. And it took me a good 3 or 4 months to find out what that was. What it is, it's a 1960s economic formula called On the Road to the Golden Age. And in this economic formula is a Nobel Prize winning. It's either Nobel Prize winning or the person, this guy Naslund, who wrote On the Road to the Golden Age, is on the board of who decides who gets a Nobel Prize. So it's even higher than that. But what it says is, if you're on an unbacked system or a partially unbacked system, which we were on in the 1960s, we didn't have convertibility of gold, and you want to go on to a gold standard because everybody's not trusting your fiat money anymore, the best way to do it is run that fiat money system as long and hard as you can, soaking up all the benefits, build houses, build roads, build your military, which is exactly what the United States has done and the rest of the world, truthfully. And China has built a huge infrastructure over the past 20 years. And the idea is to, did you guys see that? Some kind of shadow just flew by. Maybe it's a ghost. Anyway, enough of the woo-woo world. The idea was build your military and build your infrastructure as much as you can while you have this free money, and build it so high. And then the final conclusion of that formula is to build it to infinity. So print money to infinity as long as people are accepting it. And that was the plan. And it went on and on and on until we get to 2007. And remember where we were in 2007. Bear Stearns was failing because they had the big silver short, and Lehman Brothers, and then the crash in 2008. But in 2007, January 1st, they released this booklet, this comic book, and the teacher's guide, which I actually have 2 copies of. They're very rare, so I hang on to those. They're all encased and rated in the comic book thing, which was dumb because now I can't open them. But I already know what they say, and I have there's a electronic copy at the Fed Boston website if you want to go see it. But anyway, there's almost everything in this booklet is exactly the same as everything in this booklet. These 2 booklets are pretty much exactly the same except for one part. And that's the part where in the first booklet it says I'm going to print money till forever, to infinity. And the second booklet, it decides not to print money to infinity. And there's only one thing that Roota writes in this, or 2 things that Roota writes in the sand. And if you can see it there, she writes 9 plus 11 and a crescent moon there in the flower. 9 plus 11. What's 9 plus 11? 9/11. The Road to Roota theory says they stopped the whole implementation of Naslund's On the Road to the Golden Age theory because of 9/11, because these bad things are happening with the unbacked fiat money. And that was the whole idea which started me off on the Road to Roota theory, where there's this group of good guys taking over from these bad guys who have been abusing us for so long. Is it true? Absolutely, it is. And I've proven it time and time again. And if you don't believe me, pull out a $100 bill. And on the new $100 bill, you look, get a magnifying glass out and look on the right side. First of all, there's gold all over one side of it. I have a video on the hidden meanings of the $100 bill. But look on the right side of that $100 bill, and written in gold right above the 100 is the part of the Declaration of Independence that says, we reserve the right to overthrow our government. That right on the new $100 bill. And it was supposed to be printed and released in 2009. Every single one of those new $100 bills, the ones with the gold on it, are 2009 series. They have not made another one in, 8 years. Very interesting. Have you noticed that? Go pull out one. They haven't printed another one since 2009. What does it all mean? It all means that the process is still going on. The return to a gold standard is still in process. We still have to take out these bad guys. Trump getting elected is a big part of that. The whole part of the left and the right splitting and ripping America apart was not part of that. We never thought that would happen, and that was the plan of the bad guys, was to rip America apart. So this whole thing with Trump going in and bombing in Syria to save the babies, which is what CNN and the left wanted, they're doing exactly what the bad guys want, but at the same time, they're pulling in the other half of America to fight them all together at some point. And at some point, I do think we'll all be fighting when the information is released on pedophiles, both left and right, Democrats and Republicans, within our Congress and within our military, within our CIA. They're all over the place. And when this is shown to the world, we're going to have what they call a constitutional crisis. And that constitutional crisis will mean we're going back to the Constitution. That's what a constitutional crisis means. We're going to go back to the Constitution and remove these animals that have been controlling us and controlling our politicians. And I'm the first one to say, if Trump has anything to do with it, I know he was friends with that Jeffrey, what's his face from the sex island. Supposedly he did not have sex with underage women, but who knows? If he did, and there's proof of that, he should go into jail too. Every single one of them. We need a full culling of our government. I'm hoping he didn't, but I know there's people within the good guys. Most of the people within the good guys have not done that. But there are people within the bad guys. Pretty much all of them have been compromised in one way or the other. And there's videotape, and Uma Abedin's hard drive is going to give up the goods on most of them. So don't fret about what Trump's doing right now. There's not going to be a World War III. That's what CNN's going to start saying. If Trump doesn't go in and finish the job in Syria, he's a bad guy. No, it's not what's going on. Trump has almost overnight flipped everybody into, oh, wow, Trump saved the babies. It's all a game. It's all ridiculous. But it's part of the plan to get us out of that old system into the new system. Out of the old monetary system into something new. It will have to do with gold. It'll have to do with silver. It'll have to do with Bitcoin. All three of them. So you need some of each one. I would say number one, hold as much silver as you can. Physical silver in your own hands. Because it's been suppressed for over 150 years. So the price of silver that you see today is ridiculous. The price of silver, you'll see after it's not manipulated anymore, it will shock you. It will be past 1-to-1 with gold, at least for a while. And that's, gold will also go crazy. Not as crazy as silver. I'm so excited, I'm getting choked up. And Bitcoin, what a great form of means of exchange. It is a great means of exchange. It just is. So get yourself some Bitcoin too, but mainly silver. My advice is mainly silver, a little bit of Bitcoin, maybe 10% Bitcoin. So it's 80% silver, 10% Bitcoin, and 5% gold, and then 5% in cash. Because you're going to need cash when the banks go down. You need coins. Coins are great. Coins are actually, they're the currency of the United States. They're not Federal Reserve notes. They're minted by the U.S. Mint, which is controlled by the Treasury. Whereas Federal Reserve notes, pieces of paper, are created by the Federal Reserve Bank, and they are not legal tender, although it says it right on the bill. Anyway, this is a Sunday afternoon rant. That's the story. So all you guys that are freaking out, oh, Bix, you don't know what you're talking about. Trump's gone to the dark side. Don't worry about it. It's all part of the road to Roota theory. It's all part of taking back our country. You didn't think it would be easy, did you? You think, oh, Trump got elected. Our country has returned to a constitutional form of government. No, it's going to be hard. It's going to get worse. I hate to tell you, especially throughout this next few months and through the summer. It's going to get really ugly and really confusing, too. So hang in there and just learn as much as you can. Go through the Road to Roota videos. Go through the Road to Roota website. It's all there. So, yeah, that's it. I'll talk to you guys on Monday.